Alex, it's been months since people played it, but they're still talking about it. What was your takeaway from Last of Us?
I mean, I think the thing with me for that game was that it definitely, there were things you could look at that game and be like, okay, it's another zombie game, or, it's just, it's got another dark, bleak, post-apocalyptic universe thing. But the writing in that game is phenomenal. You definitely feel like the humanity of those characters. The performances are super, super good. And like Russ said, the gameplay has this intensity to it that, those kinds of games, sometimes they just get really frustrating and just borderline unplayable because of the way they set up those stealth things. But the way they designed those encounters and those fights and the way the stealth works in that game, I think is some of the best example of that that's really ever been done.
Leading contender for Game of the Year, Steven?
Yes, I mean, I'm torn between two of these games on this list. That's one of them. 2 points about this game. One is that, and this is a strange thing to find, to be enamored with about the game, but of all things, I love the fact that I used everything in my inventory when I played Last of Us.
Right.
A lot of games, with the way they're designed, there's a lot of stuff you just don't need, a lot of nonsensical extra weapons and bombs and stuff. Everything had a purpose in Last of Us. I used my entire arsenal, and I think that's a credit to the good game design. The other thing is, I don't think any of us are saying that this is a Game of the Year nominee due to its multiplayer. And there's other games of the 5 that have multiplayer, and maybe Mario might be the exception to this, but otherwise, I don't think that the multiplayer blew us away on any of these. And so we're talking about nominees that we love for their single player.
Yep.
And I think that this is a thing you see with a lot of awards, is that we don't really embrace the big multiplayer-centric games for Game of the Year, and I don't know if that represents a deficiency in those games or a deficiency in us critics or what, but it does stand out to me that...
I think you're right. I think it's a great point, because I think critics naturally gravitate towards sort of story and narrative, and you look at last year, like Journey, Walking Dead, all these games that were on the list, and I mean, there were powerful narratives, and you're right. I mean, people are loving, Call of Duty multiplayer or League of Legends or things like that.
Right.
And even though that game's been out for many years, people still love that, and some people would say that's their Game of the Year. But you're right, we're talking, a lot about narrative and story.
And I think a lot of the reason for that is just, like you talk about Call of Duty, that multiplayer hasn't really changed that dramatically since Modern Warfare 1.
Which doesn't make it bad. I mean,
No, it doesn't
we
make it
wouldn't
bad.
only credit a game of being Game of the Year because it was radically innovative. It could
Sure.
be the best refinement of something that's already had. But sometimes people also argue whether these games need to even have a multiplayer mode. And I don't think that we would have disqualified any of the games that we have as our 5 if they didn't have that multiplayer mode.
And in the case of Last of Us, that game actually has a really good multiplayer,
Yeah.
like surprisingly good,
Yeah.
for a game that seems so focused on its single-player campaign.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, next game on the list, Grand Theft Auto 5, obviously the biggest game this year in terms of pop culture impact and sales. I think people naturally expect it to probably be on the Game of the Year list. Russ, what is the aftertaste for you on GTA 5?
I love the single player. I thought it was great, really great story, well written, really interesting missions, kept me playing through the single player. The aftertaste, unfortunately, is the multiplayer,
Right.
which launched with a real big mess on their hands. The servers were down, tons of people weren't able to connect. So that's the shame of it, is that a lot of people still think about online
Right.
when they think about Grand Theft Auto. But that single player campaign is tremendous. It's the best single player campaign that studio has done.
Yeah.
And so that's really the achievement there, if you can block out the horror that was GTA Online.
Well, it's a good question about, talk to you, Alex and Stephen about, the multiplayer and the sort of, the raw aftertaste from that. I mean, should that affect whether, does that weigh into your voting when you think about it?
I mean, for me, no, but that's only because I honestly didn't think, if I had to pick a big open world game that I was more fond of, I think Saints Row 4 was probably more my thing this year. GTA 5, it's a cultural touchstone. It's a game that everyone played. It's huge, and there's obviously a lot of really fun, like the heist missions in particular are great in that game. But story-wise, it didn't do a whole lot for me. Like, I never connected with those characters. Like, Trevor was the only one I got any real amusement out of, and that's because he's just pure destructive id. Like he's less a character than just a force.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, not really. I wouldn't necessarily. It's probably somewhere in my top 10, but it's like I would rather play something like a Saints Row 4 than GTA 5 again.
Steven's probably on your top 5 list, right?
It's the other one
Okay.
that I'm debating with.
Kept us in suspense.
It refined the gameplay. If Call of Duty doesn't really evolve in gameplay, then I think you could say maybe Grand Theft Auto doesn't either, or at least it doesn't revolutionize itself. But they slowly accreted the best of the gameplay that they could, beforehand, improved it, and they wound up with the best playing Grand Theft Auto of all. The characters are a mixed bag. Trevor's fantastic, but I think the other two are lacking, particularly Franklin. I don't think he's that strong. But the mission design It's constantly surprising you with what you're doing. It all fits within the core mechanics. They do, if you sort of plumb the corners enough, you can find missions that allow the flexibility and malleability that GTA 3 had. And the scope of the world. We praise BioShock's world, but the world in GTA 5 I think is second to none in terms of what's been created, the amount there is to do, and just how beautiful it is.
And then we get the Super Mario 3D World. I think the first Wii U Game of the Year nominee, I believe. Steven, I'll start with you since you're such a huge Nintendo.
Because I've mentioned it twice.
Exactly, yes. So Super Mario 3D World,
Right.
a deserving candidate for Game of the Year.
Yeah, the best Mario game on a console since the first Galaxy, I would say. What are you making faces over here?
Galaxy 2, I think, is better, but that's
Galaxy 2 is very good as well. So maybe I'm just disqualifying the new Super Mario Brothers games, but I think there's a schism, right? There's between the people who roll their eyes at the new Super Mario games, they recognize sort of the purity of that design, but they're like, come on, it's like old man Mario at this point. And this other thing, which is the EAD Tokyo stuff, the Galaxies, the Mario 3D Land, Mario 3D World, where it's new idea after new idea, maybe a bit of a hodgepodge, maybe a little bit too much of like crazy new idea, but looks amazing. It's the best look we've ever had at the Mushroom Kingdom. It's fun. It's undeniably fun.
Alex, definitely on your list?
It's the only one I haven't had much of a chance to play. I played a bunch of it at E3. I've had scattered opportunities to play it since then. Every time I've played it, I've loved it. And frankly, it has the cat suit, so that's really enough to probably put it in contention anyway for me.
Right to the top 5 list,
Yeah.
the cat suit. Russ, what was your take on it?
would probably not be on my list.
Okay.
I liked it. I had fun playing it, but if I'm going to pick a Nintendo game this year, I'd pick Zelda. I thought 3DS Zelda was tremendous, and I would put that in potential game of the year.
Okay. Well, that leads to my next question, which is what have the critics, what have our board of advisors, what have we left out? Is there anything that's a shocking omission?
Absolutely. It's not a shocking omission because I totally expect it to not be there, but Towerfall, man. I've dropped 50 hours of Towerfall multiplayer. Made by one dude named Matt Thorson, and he just made an amazing game. Probably the best multiplayer game that I've local multiplayer since Smash Brothers.
Wow.
And
It'll be on your Game of the Year list.
it would be, yes.
Would it win Game of the Year?
Who knows? It's a group. It would win my Game of the Year, but Polygon
Wow, all right, right
group
to the top.
decides.
And Alex, anything that's missing that you really love this year?
There's still a bunch of stuff I gotta play, but the one that I think is missing is Rayman Legends. I think that is by far probably the best 2D platformer I've played in the last several years. I think the last 2 Rayman games have been spectacular, and this one in particular is just so tightly designed level-wise. The art is amazing. Just everything about that game sucked me in from the get-go, and that was one I had no problem blowing through for a review because I just wanted to keep playing it.
No, it was up. I think best PlayStation and best Nintendo game, which were strange nominations to get from a Rayman game, but people loved it. Steven, besides Papers, Please, anything else that is missing?
A Link Between Worlds is really good, so it kind of squeaks in there. Tearaway is fantastic as well, but I don't know that it necessarily makes the cut over all those, but that's a game I would love to see rewarded for its sheer creativity. So there's been some fantastic stuff.
All right, so finally, before we wrap up here, what would you guys pick as your game of the years?
I already said it. I said
Out of the
Towerfall.
out of the five.
Out of the 5, sorry.
Yes, exactly.
I'd probably go with Last of Us.
Okay.
I would agree. I would go with Last of Us.
Steven?
I'm torn. I thought I was torn like 3 minutes
All right,
ago.
Last of Us 3. You're
You're
still waiting to fill out your ballot.
GTA 5 or
Just say Last of Us. Just say
No,
it.
to make it interesting, I'll say GTA 5.
Okay.
One of
All right,
these
there
guys
you
know.
go. All right, Rockstar appreciates that. All right, well, when we come back, we're going to talk more about the trends in games this year and the top studios of the year.